regular session for Wednesday, March 9th. We will begin at 5:15 p.m. I'll call the meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Zerlo, would you please conduct the roll?
Certainly. Mr. Castine.
Present.
Mr. Desio.
Here.
Mr. Hall is asked to be excused this evening. Mr. Henry.
Here.
Mr. Hughes.
Here.
Mr. Kretzer. Here. Mr. Courier is asked to be excused. Mr. Potiker.
Here.
Mr. Timmons. Here. Ms. Waldron.
Here.
Yes, sir. All legislators have received a copy of the minutes for February 23rd, for the February 23rd regular session. If there are no additions, deletions, or corrections, I will entertain a motion to accept those minutes. Can I have a motion? Motion by Legislator Pazile, second by Legislator Hughes. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now recognize anyone in the audience who wishes to share their thoughts and concerns with the legislature. Please raise your hand if you wish to be recognized. State your name and state your name and address for the record. And in accordance with the rules of order, all speakers will be limited to 5 minutes. Is there anybody who wishes to speak to the legislature at this time? Yes, go ahead, man. You go first. Right up to the podium, please. Or you can both do it together. I don't know if one at a time or both together, or however you're going to do it.
Yeah.
I assume it's both on the same topic. Is that right?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So I'm Lori Bedard, and this is my husband Thomas. We live at 2147 State Route 11 in Moores. And we're here to discuss what we received last Friday on March 4th, 2022 from our township. It was regarding a proposed FEMA floodplains that includes your property. So since when we got the letter, we looked into it a little bit, and really there wasn't a whole lot of information really explaining it. So we reached out to Glenn Cutter, and he was great on pretty much explaining what was going on. And I'm going to go over, we reached out to many people, the responses, and the main issue here is that we're being added to floodplain, and it's affecting 1,000 people, at least 1,000 people in Flint County. So first thing was, we contacted our insurance agent, and because you would have to be grandfather claused in before you were added to the map. And the issue here was that the maps are currently in the final stages of approval with a required 90-day appeals process currently being held by FEMA, which was published in the legal notice section of the Press Republican on February the 9th, meaning we are 30 days into the 90 days appeals timeframe. We have posted the preliminary floodplain data on the GIS map online for Flint County. Before we received this on March 4th, we had no idea that our property was even added. So when I contacted the insurance agency, she said you would have to be grandfather claused in prior to being added, or you don't get the grandfather clause rates, which at a bare bones policy, if we purchased, is very expensive, but to not be a bare bones policy, and after you weren't having the reduced rate of being grandfather claused in, it would be unaffordable for 1,000 people in Flint County. And she also advised that it would probably, and Glenn did too, that it would probably be better or that you would need to be able to prove to FEMA that you weren't included in the floodplains, or that your property or house wasn't going to flood, that you would need an elevation certificate, which is added cost. So I reached out to an elevation survey place that was recommended, and with that, it is an additional cost, but they don't come out to the field until the end of March, which we're already into we've only have 60 days left until our appeals process is up, May 17th. And in order to not have your property or possibility of amending, it's called LOMA, so it's a land and map amendment, that would have to be filed to FEMA. And that process, with FEMA's approval, takes 6 to 10 weeks. So there's no way that people are not gonna be able to not purchase the flood insurance without knowing if their property is gonna be amended to be, on this map. Because it takes 6 to 10 weeks for this LOMA, for a possibility of your property having this elevation certificate submitted to LOMA, to FEMA. So that's kind of where we're, like 1,000+ people are gonna have this insurance that they're gonna have to pay for. And if they threw this in the mail, which a lot of, in the garbage, like a lot of people probably did, their financial institution that finance their property is gonna contact them and say, we need insurance. We need flood insurance provided because you're in zone A now. And the cost would be, and it's a one-time payment, you can't make payments, so it's a one-time payment. Where in the county is 1,000 people gonna come up with this kind of money to pay that when the cost of everything else is increasing? Because you're talking thousands of dollars. I don't know. My bare bones policy that was with no contents and wasn't the value of my house was $688.
688?
Yes, but it would probably be 10 times that much if you weren't grandfather claused in. Which if you did not get the insurance because you weren't aware of this, then you would be paying a lot of money. So this is really a big issue when it's affecting 1,000 people in Clinton County.
Anything else to add?
No, well, my husband would like to discuss a few things.
Sure.
See,
Absolutely.
going by the map that FEMA put
Just step
out,
up closer to the mic, please, sir.
the map that FEMA put out, like where we're at, we've never flooded before. We've never had water. It might have, it's a brook that's behind our place, and it probably came like a few inches above it. It never was like feet above it and all, but I'm looking at by the height of where they got their map, it's probably gonna be 5 to 6 feet above, just over the edge of the brook, flood. That's how deep they're showing how much more water we're gonna have. I mean, I just do not see how it's even ever possible. And, if there was a way where we could do something, like speak to people from FEMA, how do they come up with this, their measurements? It's just, there's no way in that area that it could flood that much. And I was looking at their map, like some areas around the river, it's, legit, like what usually floods. But like where we are, it never floods like that. I mean, there's hundreds of acres, even upstream from us and around us, that they're showing flooding. That's a lot of gallons of water, and even downstream, what they're showing is, I don't know how they're getting rid of the water, because it didn't even go over the road downstream, the second road downstream. The first one it did I'd say about 800 to 1,000 feet to be over the road. I don't know how they're gonna get that much water at one time. It would have to, get many feet of water, rain in one day. Or even the melting runoff from snow. You have to have hundreds of feet of snow to have that much water. It just doesn't make sense.
All right.
But we need to get FEMA involved to help us out and all to come up with reality here.
Legislator Castine, do you have something to add?
Well, when I arrived, I talked to Glenn Cutter from our planning department and asked him, we had an economic development meeting prior to the start of this meeting. And when I walked in, he was already talking to Rob, so Rob might probably know a little bit more about what he had to say. But the gist of it is that they have no choice. They have to buy the insurance, whether they want to or not. And as they just said, the 90 days started with, legally, yeah, they got notice, but practically, they didn't. So I don't know if there's something that we can do as a county to, help assess this problem. I don't know what Patty or Rick or Rob got from talking a little bit with Glenn, listening to what he had to say.
Yeah, I've actually had somebody that just purchased a property that has water on it, but probably a 60 to 70 foot bank that differs the water elevation from the building, but they were still forced to buy the insurance. But I believe they're looking at around $1,000 from a surveyor right now in order to get their property or their building, I guess, claimed as safe.
Yes.
And they expect then they don't have to have flood insurance. But I'm not sure as far as your situation where if you buy the insurance, is that gonna allow you to claim the grandfather clause, or do you actually have to have the surveyor submit the paperwork before in order to get that clause? I don't know.
So what I was advised, because right now we're not zoned as on the floodplain, because we weren't before. So once we're added to the map, after we're added to the map, we can't buy the insurance and still get the grandfather clause. But if we buy the insurance before we're added to the map, then we get the grandfather clause price. The surveyor that I spoke with, not personally, but through email, is that they can't come out until, that specifically works with elevation, so an elevation certificate. And they would be able to come out approximately, I'm waiting for an appointment at the end of March, and then was told via email that it would take 6 to 10 weeks to process a LOMA, so a land map amendment. So they felt with all the numbers that they took from this certificate, by what they, assess everything, that they would be able to submit to FEMA. And it takes 6 to 10 weeks for FEMA to process that application.
Gary, did you have something that?
Just a little generic information to explain a little bit about how this occurs, and it's a chronic thing that occurs all the time. I've dealt with it on numerous occasions. One of the rules with FEMA is they operate based on your tax map parcel, and that tax map is what they use. And their rule says that if any of your parcel is in the floodplain that they determine, then it's deemed all in the floodplain until you show that the structures are not under the floodplain level, and that's where the elevation certificate comes in. You get the LOMA, and that's a forever determination. With lenders and in a practical sense, if you're able to do it, you buy the insurance at the best rate you can get, you make that decision, then you do your LOMA with the elevation certificate, and then you cancel your insurance and get that rebated so that everything is covered in the interim. But this happens chronically. They are constantly changing the maps. After Irene, everything on Lake Champlain got changed big time. It's just going to be a perpetual problem, and as the climate changes, it's going to be more and more frequent. But that's the reason for the rule that you're questioning as to, my home is up here, I've got some land down here, and the stream or river's down here. It's because they start at FEMA with just a tax map. They have no idea where the house is, they have no idea where the elevations are on your lot, and that's why the burden gets shifted to you to make that change. And there's not really anything a town or a county or anyone else can do. That's a federal mandate. It's part of the lending requirements, and it's just an unfortunate situation that has to be dealt with.
Yes, and I think too, why we wanted to come here tonight is to make the committee aware, and to also, because if we wouldn't have received this letter or questioned it, we didn't even know that we were going to be potentially added to a floodplain. So how can you do all those things if you don't have the information there? I mean, we have 60 days, but still, I mean, we're gonna be out at least $1,500 to get this in place. And if people do have mortgages and don't know this, and then their lending institution does require it, that cost of $1,500 is probably, I don't know what it is because I didn't, question that, but a lot more than the grandfather clause price, which is a one-time payment that is by 1,000 residents that this is proposing to affect.
Legislator Timmons?
I want to say that Glenn Cutter was saying, I guess that reduced price of the grandfather price that you're saying, I believe eventually you do end up catching up to where if you didn't get the clause, I think it bought you a few years, I think, the way that you made it sound.
I did not ask that with my insurance agent, but I could ask that and find out the exact information on that. Right now, our parcel is zoned in X, which is the best possible. What it's proposing to be zoned is a zone A, which is the worst. Which is a lot of the 1,000 people that this is affecting.
You pay every big difference.
Is there potentially an option to seek, still go through the process, not asking to be absolved from the process, but to ask, since there's so many people seeking these determinations, that is there a way to get some sort of waiver to get additional time to get the survey done?
I'm not aware of anything with regard to the insurance companies and the rates that get charged. That would be that relationship. With FEMA, it's you submit your loan and they process it. And that's the way that would work.
I think one of my major concerns is too, to make sure that the public is really aware that their property could possibly be affected by this, and that they have the added expenses of this, and know before they find out whatever, if they're going to sell their home. Because we went to sell our home, whoever is gonna buy our home now is not gonna get the grandfather clause price. So it really devalues our property, because somebody's gonna have to pay extra to have that insurance to be able to buy our home.
Unless you get the exemption from the survey.
But it doesn't, yes.
That
But if
stays.
that doesn't approve, which we don't know at this time, because we don't have 6 to 10 weeks to know that. So I think if the information can get out publicly more, I think would be better for people to be aware, because if not, a lot of people are gonna be upset.
Thank you. One last question.
What town are you in?
I'm in the town of Moores.
Somebody contacted me from the town of Altona with the same issues.
So everywhere.
And I live in Beamantown on the water, and I haven't got any letter yet, so.
Looking at GIS map, there's like the information out there is that there's gonna be 1,000 parcels, so 1,000 people are gonna be affected by this. That's a heck of a portion of our county. 1,000 people are suddenly gonna be in a flood zone that they weren't in before. And as she said, the surveys, people aren't gonna get out there for a few more weeks. This was published in February, and those survey people wouldn't have gone out there if she'd known it in February. So she couldn't get this done in the 90 days if she wanted to. So, FEMA's just not using much logic here when they're using that February as the 90-day starting point. So I don't know if there's a way to appeal to FEMA to extend that or not. Is FEMA rock solid that?
I think the channel of communication would be through federal representatives. It's a federal agency, federal program, it's a mandated program, and I think you have to work through your federal representatives. They're gonna have a much stronger voice than anywhere. FEMA notifies the towns send out the letters. That's the process of notification.
Maybe we can get the towns, the villages, and the city, I'm sure, saw several of these blue zones in the city too that weren't there before. And then maybe the county could also contact our congresswoman and our 2 senators. So,
Thank you, we appreciate your time. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Anything further on that? Okay. We will now go to committee reports. I will call the chairperson of each committee.
Anybody else want to talk?
I'm sorry?
Anybody else want to talk?
Yeah.
In the public.
Public. public.
Oh, is there anybody else? I thought we were done. No, I thought, I asked for hand raise, I only saw theirs. Thank you, though. That was- I go by the hands. When I see the hands, that's what I call it. Thank you very much for coming this evening, folks.
Thank you.
We will now go to committee reports. I will call on the chairperson of each committee in alphabetical order by committee, starting with Buildings and Grounds and Legislative Presiding.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Buildings and Grounds Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Building and Grounds Committee meeting, tentatively scheduled for Monday, March 14th at 4:30 p.m., has been canceled. As such, resolutions will be polled on Friday, March 18th. End of report.
Thank you. Children and Family Services, Legislative Body.
Yes, Mr. Chairman. The Children and Family Services Committee met on Tuesday, March 1st. John Redden, the Commissioner of the Department of Social Services, was present to discuss monthly statistics for January 2022, the Medicaid takeover, the Supplemental Nutrition Assistance Program, or SNAP, the 2022 budget, and the resolution approving appointment to the Clinton County Youth Board. Resolution number 151 has been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Children and Family Services Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th at 5:15 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Economic Development, County Operations, Legislative Baldwin.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Economic Development and County Operations Committee met earlier today. Glenn Cutter, the Planning Director, was present to discuss the resolution authorizing contract amendment with Elon 3 Consulting. Molly Ryan, the Economic Development Director, was present to discuss high school survey and a shovel-ready site grant opportunity. Additionally, a discussion was held regarding the consideration of the live streaming of legislative meetings. Resolution 152 has been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Economic Development and County Operations Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 13th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Finance, Legislator Timmons.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, the Finance Committee met on Wednesday, March 2nd. Kimberly Davis, the County Treasurer, and Rebecca Murphy, the Deputy County Treasurer, were present to discuss 2022 sales tax charts, the 2022 town-county tax installments, interim foreclosure in the Clinton County Land Bank, and review of the Regional Land Bank Zoom meeting that went on. Kim Bloom, the Deputy County Administrator, was also present to discuss class action settlement for Zoom licenses and the resolution authorizing contract with Claims Compensation Bureau, LLC. Resolution 153 has been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Finance Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 6th at 5:15 p.m. In the report.
Thank you. Health, Legislator Hughes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Health Committee met on Wednesday, March 2nd. Deborah Tackett, the Interim Health Director, was present to discuss getting to know your local health department, the New York State Public Health Court, New York State Fellowship Program Grant, and the Health Department report of February 2022 and Winter Safety Guide of 2021 to 2022. Rochelle Gregory was present to discuss resolution authorizing contract with Coordinated Care Services, Inc. Resolutions 154 through 157 have been placed on the agenda upon the recommendation of the committee. The next Health Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Wednesday, April 6th at 4:15 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Human Services, Mr. Joe.
Yes, Chairman, on behalf of Legislator Courier, the Human Services Committee has not met since the last regular session. The committee, in fact, however, was polled on Resolution 158. And the next Human Services Committee is tentatively scheduled for Tuesday, April 5th at 4:15 p.m.
Thank you. Personnel, the Personnel Committee met on Monday, March 7th. Kim Kinbaum, the Personnel Director, was present to discuss various resolutions, including a memorandum of agreement with CSEA for Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration entry-level driver's training tuition reimbursement, and a contract with Coughlin and Gerhard, LLP. Resolutions will be placed on the agenda for the Wednesday, March 23rd regular session. upon recommendations of the committee. The next Personnel Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 4th at 5 p.m. Plattsburgh International Airport, Mr. Trillo.
Yes, sir. On behalf of Legislator Hall, the Plattsburgh International Airport Committee has not met since their last regular session. Resolution number 159 was pulled and has been placed on the agenda as a result of the committee's recommendation. And the next Plattsburgh International Airport Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for March 23rd at 4 p.m.
Public Safety, Legislator Castine.
Yes, sir, Mr. Chairman. The Public Safety Committee met on Monday, March 7th. Sheriff David Favreau from the Sheriff's Department was present to discuss various resolutions and the purchase of a full-body scanner. Dave Marco, the Probation Director, was present to discuss resolution authorizing contract with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, alternatives to incarceration, plan, and funding. Eric Day, the Emergency Services Director, was present to discuss the resolution authorizing contract with Entrado Life and Safety Solutions Corporation. Chad Deans, the County Coroner, was present to discuss resolution authorizing a written mutual aid agreement for coroner services. Resolution 160 through 167 have been placed on the agenda as a result of the committee's recommendations. The next Public Safety Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, April 4th at 4 p.m. End of report.
Thank you. Transportation and Legislator Kretzer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Transportation Committee has not met since the last regular session. The next Transportation Committee meeting is tentatively scheduled for Monday, March 21st at 5:15 p.m. And that's the end of the report.
Thank you. We will now run through the liaison reports quickly. Board of Health, Legislator Potter.
Oh, Board of Health, we had a meeting on February 28th. Much of the discussion had to do with the filling of the vacancy for the director position. The board will be conducting, or the committee will be conducting interviews tomorrow and Friday. The board is having a special meeting to choose a recommendation on Monday, the 14th, and we'll present that to the legislature for the next meeting on the 23rd.
Thank you. Chamber of Commerce and Legislator Potter.
Yes, there was no meeting on the 4th at the chamber. The next meeting will be on April Tuesday. Maple Weekend is coming back this year, last 2 weekends in March. Keep an eye open for participating sugar houses in the region.
Clinton Community College.
Yes, Mr. Chairman.
Legislator Desire.
I will be attending the regular meeting of the Board of Trustees of Clinton Community College later this month. At this time, there's no report.
Other than the announcement of our.
Well, I gave you a heads up on that a couple of weeks ago.
Yes, you did. Thank you. Community Services Board, Legislator Castine.
No report, sir.
Thank you. Cooperative Extension, Legislator Timmons.
No report.
Discipline Review, no report. Grievance, no report.
Other than it's 18th, I believe.
March, right, yeah.
March 18th at 2 p.m.
The Grievance Committee will be meeting March 18th at 2 p.m. That would be myself, Legislator Kretzer, and Legislator Burrier. Intercounty, Legislator Walter.
Yes, Mr. Chairman, Fulton County hosted the Intercounty of the Adirondacks meeting on Thursday, February 24th. John Stead, the Administrative Officer of Fulton County, provided a presentation on the Fulton County Strategic Plan, highlighting the use of American Rescue Plan Act funding. The plan includes Route 30A Corridor Sewer Project Phase 1, and that project will take sewer service from the joint treatment plant in Gloversville and Johnstown out to the village of Mayfield on the edge of the Great Sacandaga Lake. This will help improve public sewer service in both Mayfield and Northville. The second project was the Field of Dreams project. This was also used with the ARPA funds. The goal is to make a premier destination location for Little League tournament baseball. There will be one main complex with few smaller fields, with the hope of bringing thousands of Little Leaguers and families in on weekends during the summer period of tournament baseball. This complex will be located between Johnstown and Gloversville in an industrial area, providing an opportunity to rejuvenate this area. with the hopes that this would be the little sister of Cooperstown. Their third mission was the Great Sacandaga Lake History Museum. Sacandaga Lake was created to stop the historic and seasonal flooding that occurred in the Hudson Valley. Flooding would occur every 2 or 3 years in the early part of the 20th century. This lake was built specifically to prevent this from happening. This museum is looking to be a modern interpretive type of facility that will highlight the actual construction, development, and taking of the property. Our next intercounty meeting of the Adirondacks will be March 14th at the New York State Association of Counties Legislative Conference.
Thank you. LCLG Regional Planning Board, Legislator Hughes and or Kretzer.
No official report on any business, other than a note of congratulations. They received the Distinguished Award of Economic Development Partner of the Year by the Chamber of Commerce at the annual dinner. So they won a nice award from the Chamber.
Excellent, thank you. So, Water Legislator Timmons.
No report, sir.
Workforce Development Board, Legislator Kretzer.
No report.
Alrighty. Staff members will have reports. Mr. Favreau?
Request for 2 items to be handled in executive
Session. And Mr. Turtle.
A couple things I'd like to go over this evening. Quickly, quick reminder, I sent everybody an email and followed up with the same memo in your mailboxes, reminding everybody that the tour for the Line Mountain newly facility has been scheduled for, I believe, the 26th of March. So hopefully everybody can attend that. One piece of good news, we did receive confirmation this morning that our earmark request from Congresswoman Stefanik did make its way through the legislature. It had previously passed the House's one-half budget. It's now in the part of the omnibus spending bill that was approved. So we will be receiving $1 million to assist with remediation in Building 2753 at the airport. So that is a piece of very good news. Secondly, I guess this could be good news, but ironically, we had a visitor today. We had the executive director of the Association of Counties was in town, and while we were having a bite to eat at lunch, he receives a phone call, and his face immediately went ashen, and he received a call from Senator Schumer's office indicating that the possibility existed for state and local government ARPA funds to be recouped by the federal government, and the president had asked for money to plan for a future pandemic, and Congress said fine, but here's the money that we found to do that, and we were sucked up in that debate. Senator Schumer, I think he publicly deserves credit. He and his staff worked hard to remove that local clawback provision from the omnibus bill, so our ARPA money remains intact, and the state clawback remained in the legislation, but New York's. So our next concern was that if the feds take money from the state, where's the state going to find money? Local. However, since New York State already drew down its full share of ARPA, we are exempted, New York State's exempted from that clawback as well. So it looks as though we are going to come out of this unscathed, but I did not enjoy lunch as much as I thought I was going to when we sat down. But that is a positive of good news. And finally, I'd like to turn the conversation to Ms. Kimball, who would like to briefly outline the process to begin tobacco settlement distributions.
Just to give an overview for any new legislators that were not aware of this tobacco settlement. So there was a large settlement in the amount of $206 billion between the federal government and tobacco industries back in 1998. So the state provided counties with some of this tobacco money, which we now call the tobacco reserve in Clinton County. We primarily utilize that for roads and paving, that allocation. But in 2012, there is a resolution passed by this board to allocate 5% of that tobacco money to local community projects. So we are not sure how long this money will last, but we have received this every year. So those community projects are projects that increase the quality of life, experience in Clinton County in a memorable way for residents and visitors, and eligible applicants include other municipalities and non-for-profit organizations. So the money is available based on the policy that I provided to you April 1st. So the policy also indicates that you have full discretion on how much money to give and how many projects to support. We do try to keep a retainer of at least $10,000 in that tobacco settlement fund. So some questions we need to kind of ask ourselves tonight and make some decisions is that we have not provided any of that funding to the community projects for the last 2 years due to COVID. In 2020, which I did provide to you also, there were 12 projects that were brought forward. We ended up writing letters to those individuals indicating that we could not, that we were not going to proceed with funding any projects due to COVID. So I guess the first question is tonight is we need to determine how much money we are going to give out of this tobacco money. If we want to give out more because we've missed 2 years, or if we want to give out kind of the average annual amount that we normally give out.
Yeah, so, of that allocation, yes, most of it, 95% of it goes towards debt service, in the county. And the remaining 5% goes into the pocket that we provide these grants from. That annual amount is about, depending on how many cigarettes are smoked, is about $65,000 a year. So we will be receiving $65,000 in the 2022 allocation, and you have another $65,000 from the 2021 allocation that you chose not to allocate. So those are your decision points, and then I believe the last conversation is how do we want to let the world know that we are re-energizing this project and getting the word out.
And a third question is the 12 projects that you have in front of you. We need to determine, do we contact these agencies and ask them to reapply, or do we say, is your project still viable? Do we give them a preference because they applied in 2020? So those are some of the things we need to talk about.
Councilor Dessler.
I think we should ask them if they need to reply. As I see the VFW Post 1418 posting of all the heels. That was a great event last year. But it's done. Maybe they have another project that they would like to do, maybe, so I think, notifying me.
Just to keep in mind, you guys didn't award these. These are what the requests were.
Right, and we had 3 times.
And they're 2 years old, right? 2
Right.
years old?
So we had 3 times the request that we had money available. So,
Yeah, we always do.
yeah, so I think, and let the other entities know that they can submit too. I think we just, ask these people to resubmit, but also let other people submit for the first time too, and put them all in an even pedestal.
So we have them reapply from,
Yeah.
right, all over again, everything?
Well,
I think so, because how do we know?
Right.
Well,
Yes, ma'am.
is it possible we can check with these organizations
Yeah.
to see if,
Yeah,
because their
contact them.
application should still be there, and we perhaps wouldn't have to have them reapply.
Do
if
the
they're
whole
still
thing all.
interested.
No, they can, if they.
We can have them
they're the
reapply,
same.
just, if they're good with it.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose, they could just send us a letter and say, we're good with that, but they will still have to come present.
Yes.
Do all that all over again. They don't necessarily have to file all the documents again, I don't think.
So what is the total money that we have in there now?
Well, you have 2 years' worth, that's about 130,000, and then there is a tad bit of excess.
Well, if everybody
that?
remembers, we did save for a rainy day, which did, I don't know if we,
I don't think it ever rained.
it never rained, but we were prepared for rain. Perhaps we should hold some back, and I don't know what you guys feel.
I will tell you this, there, you could, it's up to you folks, you could authorize 2 years' worth, and there still would be a holdback.
So normally, if I understand you, we could authorize, say, or we would have $65,000 about. We could perhaps go forward and put a figure of $100,000 out there. That would increase, obviously, everybody's ability to apply, and we would do as Patty suggested, that would keep a little back. So maybe $100,000, I don't know, I'm just asking, maybe $100,000.
I mean, if the fund's good, then why don't we just leave it 1/3? I mean, what I actually might say, we still would.
A little bit, just because of projects that were not spent.
I mean, this is really good project, so.
I think, personally, I feel there's still some tumultuous times out there, and if we had some in reserve for a real need to our community, it'd be nice to have some help.
I agree with that, thank you. Yes, sir, Mr.
I'm just looking at the amounts here. Can we, if we're gonna advertise it out to the public, can we put a cap that we will
There is a
reward up to?
There's a cap.
It is in there. So there's, because there's requests for 3,000 and 9,000, 15,000.
Normally, Legislator Rizzo, the cap is 15,000, everybody asks for 15,000, and we have nowhere near that amount of money to appropriate. So then, the projects that are deemed eligible get ratcheted down.
So they can have a realistic thought of what they could get, maybe if I don't know what you've given in the past, but have they been 15,000 or have you maxed out at 9?
There have been some projects that received 15,000, there have been projects that received 1,500.
And we decide, I mean, we figure out
Right.
what it is.
Just to give those organizations that are applying a realistic idea of.
The other thing to consider too is we don't give this money out prior to the project. The project needs to be completed and they need to prove that the project was complete with the receipts, and then we.
So they have to self-finance and then.
Correct, it's a reimbursable program.
I think, all these look like good projects, but there may be some really good projects that are waiting. I suggest we go out there, ask for any new projects, and include these with the ask, and then consider all of them.
Includes these to reapply as Patty
Right.
suggested.
So there's a hearing discussion of $100,000, and Mr. Hughes said both 2 years. We don't care, we need to get this word out on the street, is our concern.
I would propose, go ahead.
I was
No,
gonna-
you.
I was going to agree.
I would propose
I was gonna agree with
$100,000.
your 100,000.
I would propose the figure of $100,000.
How have we gotten the word out before?
That's 35 more.
Well, before, if everybody knew of it, because it was an annual event, and then, we were kind of telling everybody that we're reinvigorating the program.
Also, your town supervisor.
Yeah, that's what I'm thinking. Contact the
Yeah, your
municipalities and let them get the word to their people.
Yeah.
And
That's why we've done it
We'll
before.
put an ad in the newspaper.
And as they said, I mean, normally, when I was at the town, we were aware of this, but we've stopped it, so we need to let it go. Anything to add on that? Randy? So, do we understand that reapply, we're gonna advertise at 100,000? Is that good with everybody? We need to vote on it? No.
So just to follow up, the next steps then, after we advertise and contact these people, is everybody, there's an application on our website that we would direct them to. It's just a 2-page document, and then any details provided would be helpful. They have until April 1st to do this application. Once we receive the applications, we will have all of those applicants come to the next finance meeting and present probably 5 minutes max on their project.
Okay, very good, thank you. We will move to the resolutions. I'll note that the majority of the resolutions have been thoroughly discussed at the committees, and the legislature is taking action tonight based largely on the recommendation of those committees. Mr. Zerlo, would you please read the titles of the resolutions to be acted upon?
Certainly. Resolution number 151, approving employment to the Clinton County Youth Board, Youth Bureau.
Mr. Potiker, 4-4.
Yes, please.
Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 152, authorizing contract amendment with Elon 3 Consulting Planning Department.
Motion, legislator Waldron. Second, legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 153, authorizing contract with Claims Compensation Bureau LLC, Legislature.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Mazzio. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 154, authorizing childhood lead poisoning prevention program grant application and acceptance, Health Department.
Motion, legislator Hughes. Second, legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 155, authorizing Healthy Neighborhoods Preventive Health Cornerstones grant application and acceptance, Health Department.
Motion, legislator Hughes. Second, legislator Mazzio. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 156, authorizing out-of-state travel, Health Department.
Motion, legislator Mazzio. Second, legislator Castine. Discussion. All in favor? Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 157, authorizing contract with Coordinated Care Services Incorporated, Mental Health and Addiction.
Motion, legislator Hughes. Second, legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 158, authorizing contract with Chimera Integrations LLC Nursing Home.
Motion, legislator Kretzer. Second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 159, authorizing lease agreement extension with Company 2 Fire for aircraft rescue and firefighting vehicle, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Timmons. Second, legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 160, authorizing 2018 Operation Stone Garden grant extension, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 161, authorizing payment of membership dues, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution number 162, authorizing out-of-state travel, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 163, authorizing payment of membership dues, Sheriff's Department.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 164, authorizing contract with New York State Division of Criminal Justice Services, Alternatives to Incarceration, Plan and Funding, Probation Department.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 165, authorizing contract with Jeanette Harder, District Attorney's Office, Child Advocacy Center.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 166, authorizing contract with Entrado Life and Safety Solutions, Emergency Services.
Motion, legislator Castine. Second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walden?
Yes.
Resolution number 167, authorizing a written mutual aid agreement for coroner services, coroner.
Motion, legislator Castine, second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution number 168, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Medicare Improvements for Patients and Providers Act, Office for the Aging.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Kretzer. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walden?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 169, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Child Advocacy Center Grant Program, District Attorney's Office.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Castine. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Walden?
Yes.
Resolution 170, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act Grant, Employment and Training.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Potiker. Any abstentions? Abstained. Legislator Kretzer. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
One abstention, Mr. Kretzer. Resolution 171, authorizing the county treasurer to increase appropriation and corresponding revenue for the health department budget, health department.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Hughes. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Carried.
Resolution 172, authorizing the county treasurer to establish a capital project titled Airport Terminal Building System Improvements Project, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 173, authorizing the county treasurer to establish a capital project titled Airport Fuel Farm Facility Project, Plattsburgh International.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 174, authorizing the county treasurer to establish appropriation and corresponding revenue for the Emergency Rental Assistance Program for Social Services.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Potiker. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 175, authorizing the county treasurer to reappropriate 2021 funds for various accounts. Treasurer's Office.
Motion, legislator Timmons, second, legislator Waldron. Discussion. Roll call.
Mr. Timmons?
Yes.
Ms. Waldron?
Yes.
Resolution number 176, commemorating the 100th anniversary of the Rouse's Point Knights of Columbus Council 2366.
Before,
I'm so sorry.
go ahead. Have a question?
I do.
Last resolution.
I'm
We
sorry.
already passed it, too late. No, it's not.
I need to abstain from 175.
Okay. Who's gonna note that? No, that's fine.
Where were we?
Nice votes.
You need to call them all in favor. Or you need to call them.
Yes, I will.
Call four.
4-4, legislator Castine.
Yes, sir.
Okay, 4-4. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Any further resolutions? That's it, very much, sir. Okay. Does anyone have anything further to come before the legislator? Legislator Castine, yes, sir.
Yes, well, we just got done passing this 100th anniversary for the Knights of Columbus and Rouse's Point. I'll point out that we're in the process of drafting a resolution recognizing the 150th of the Diocese of Augsburg. And
It's obvious that you've got a lot of work to do to get in heaven, you're passing all these resolutions.
yes, you're right.
Yeah. So that'll be everywhere.
Yeah, so I'll be coming up shortly, as Mike and his cable staff are working on it right now, and contacted the diocese, and they think it's important. I just wanted to alert everyone that, so other people like yourself will say, hey, we ought to do that.
Yeah, okay, yeah, no, so you're on it.
Yeah.
All right.
Right, yes. And,
All right. Oh, sorry. Go
on
ahead.
the FEMA thing, is there some way we could draft a letter? Mr. Tyrell, you have some idea what we could say about it?
I picked a letter to whom?
Two senators and a congresswoman.
Yeah, well, the Congresswoman Brett's from us downstairs, we can get over her. We have a extremely capable Director of Economic Development, who I'm sure would be happy to reach out to our elected officials. I know she has those contacts and can bring that to their attention.
Okay, so
Yeah, we're all for that.
we're gonna follow through on that.
Yeah.
That's, 1,000 parcels is a huge,
I don't know the answer, but maybe the request should be, you're not gonna change the program, but maybe give these people more opportunity to get their property analysis.
More time.
Well, I think also if that's the case, is there a way a press release could be done with the information on how to do so? Because you know what will eventually happen, they won't know what happens.
Molly?
This is a federal issue. I think that you need to let your federal representatives go to bat for it and give the information.
Yeah, I think we should urge them to do that. I don't want people
Okay,
thinking
yeah,
that
no,
it's our
perfect, as
program.
long as
Yeah, well,
somebody mentions to them that the public needs to be aware.
This is not the first time this has happened.
Right.
Right.
No.
This has happened chronically. I got a letter a few years ago.
yeah, but if you look at that map, it's really, you know.
It is, but they were in flood zone X before, that's a flood zone. It's just not a flood zone that mandates flood insurance. When you get moved from X into A, now it's mandated, and that's where you go through the loan process and get out of it. Most of the places get out of it because most of the houses are above the flood zone. That's just the reality of it. So the numbers are not as daunting as they may sound, but you do have to go through the process and you have to pay.
And only
If you're gonna give advice to somebody, tell them to get on the list of a surveyor really quick, because it's gonna be a long list.
Well, the problem is, we got, if
you
early February is posted, we're in the middle.
The only problems they're gonna run into is with the lender.
Yeah.
If they have a lender, and not all lenders, it's gonna depend on the age of the mortgage. The recent mortgage transactions have been getting what's called life of loan certifications, which means it's a constant monitoring process on behalf of the bank, so that when they change the FEMA map and all of a sudden one of these tax map parcels that they have a mortgage on happens, it kicks the lender doing something. The older mortgages don't have that. Once it's done at the closing, everybody walks away and forgets about it.
Well, the devaluing of the homes also could affect the county to some degree, right?
In theory, our assessed value is such that what we're talking about would not affect our tax rate.
Well, you know, when talking to the Bernards, they were told that their assessment would not change even though they're in this flood area. It's not gonna, even though your value of your resale is not gonna be there because of this, the current
The assessment
assessed
is
value
just-
is not gonna change.
So we have a path forward, everybody agrees with? You're good? Okay. All right, then I will entertain a motion to go into executive session. May I have a motion? Motion
Yeah,
by
just
legislator.
for the record, it is a sale and lease of real property as well as a matter of litigation.
Okay. A motion by legislator Hughes, second by legislator Bazzaio. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. I will now be asking you.
I'm trying to find what number we ended on. Anybody?
I have
176,
So
right?
this will be 177.
Correct.
Okay. First, I need to ask for a motion for the waiver of Rule 13.2 for the purposes of bringing a resolution to vote on to solicit bids for construction of roadway and other infrastructure. I have a motion by legislator Bazzaio, a second by legislator Hughes. Discussion. All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried.
Resolution 177, authorizing the purchasing agent to solicit bids for the construction of a new roadway, roundabout, and infrastructure at the former Clinton County Airport Economic Development.
Motion by legislator Waldron, second by legislator Timmons. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Carried. Is there any other business to come before the legislature this evening? Hearing none, I'll entertain a motion for adjournment. Motion by legislator Kretzer, second by legislator Timmons. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? We are adjourned. Thank you.